Are you ready for the new best assassin build 2021 with all the cool new stuff and things we have found last year? Well, here it is. We will have 100% crit chance, 100% melee resistance, 725% crit damage. We will have the ISO enhance and the 2 kills RS Madness reset, which will trigger an invincibility glitch with which you can stay invincible forever and spam RS Madness forever. This way I got a new Conquest battle record totaling over 111 kills by just using my assassin abilities alone with a pure assassin build. And of course you can also overrun every single mercenary with a normal assassination, also the very resistant ones and especially the very resistant S4 tier mercs. That is normally not possible with any other assassin build, but here it works. As long as you have Stealth Master overnight, you can assassinate them in a frontal attack. Tagnesa the Div was an S4 very resistant merc. Any other mercenary on any other tier, even if very resistant, can be assassinated during daylight. That will be no problem. And you also have the ISO enhance, which make you completely invincible. Whenever you get hit, ISO enhance is automatically triggering, protecting you from taking any damage. And when you have these two legendary engravings, they become ISO enhance and the cooldown duration for Battle Cry, which also works for RS Madness. Then you can not only stay into RS Madness forever, but also reset your ISO enhance cooldown every time you use your RS Madness, because RS Madness resets the 120 seconds to 0. That is the most overpowered playstyle in the entire game. You can literally smash through all those soldiers here on the battlefield by only using Ring of Chaos, RS Madness, and whenever you get hit, don't worry, simply use your RS Madness again. ISO enhance will completely protect you forever without any cooldown. But now let's first check out the damage values for this build. This build is mainly using spares, but you can also use it with other weapons, and I will show you how to do it when we go through the inventory. With the light attack you will deal around 700,000 damage when you activate your fire and attack from behind. With the heavy attack that will be around 1 million damage, and with the charged heavy attack you will deal around 2 million damage. Ring of Chaos will deal up to 1.7 million damage, and Animation Cancel for Furious the Bloodline will deal 5.8 million damage, and Hero Strike will deal 6.3 million damage. Since this is an assassin build without the big combo, our arrow shots are not as strong. Devastating Shot will deal up to 2.7 million damage, the Predator Shot will only deal 3.2 million damage, the Ghost Arrows will be slightly above 2 million, and the best of all, we can finally use our overpower Bow Strike again. We will be easily dealing over 5.6 million damage, killing the mercenary in a single shot. That can only be done when you don't use the big combo. But the best attacks are of course our assassin attacks. The RS Madness activation will deal up to 10 million damage, and when you do the same on a polar mark from behind, you will deal up to 38 million damage, while the normal RS Madness stacks will be between 1.8 and 2 million damage. Any other assassination abilities will definitely be able to overrun any mercenary, here with a normal assassination, here with RS Madness, or when you simply use your rush assassinations, that will be no problem at all. You don't even need to use any critical assassinations. Normal assassinations will be enough for every mercenary. You only need rush assassination when you kill more than one enemy in a row, but you don't need the extra damage, you will have enough damage anyway. If you need some personal build advice, wallpapers or more to modify this build, then just hit the join button, become a supporter or a premium member of this channel, and just ask me your questions on our Discord server. In the inventory you see that we don't use the big combo in this build. We have 90,000 warrior damage, 565,000 assassin damage, and we also use our real hunter damage here in that build, which is 57,000. The reason why we're not using the big combo is because the big combo does not increase our assassin damage. So when we want the most assassin damage out of our builds, then we have to use special assassin bows here with assassin damage, critical damage and stuff like that. Of course you could still use the big combo if you have it to increase your warrior and your hunter damage, but actually then you will lose a bit of your assassin damage when you do so. As you can see, we have two spares here, and our left melee weapon will be the Spartan Javelin. The Spartan Javelin is a unique item, the only only melee weapon in the game that has 30% melee resistance. It has assassin damage, damage spares and 30% melee resistance, and here we actually engrave the missing 50% crit damage because we want as high crit damage as possible and as high assassin damage as possible because these two factors are the only stuff that is driving our assassin damage. However, the damage spares is very good to increase our warrior damage, especially if we don't use the beacon bow, and the melee resistance of course is needed to reach the elusive 100% melee resistance for this build. The Spartan Javelin can be found when you kill the 3 Athenian commanders during the Mykonos questline when you follow Taleta's quests. Make sure that you kill the last commander on Delos, that will drop the Spartan Javelin for you. The second melee weapon will also be another Spartan Javelin. Now you might wonder, how do we get another Spartan Javelin? Well, those of you who do a New Game Plus of course can collect a second Spartan Javelin in a New Game Plus. But if you don't have the Spartan Javelin, there are also other options that could replace it. We could simply use the Minotaur Mace, which is also another unique weapon that has assassin damage and 100% critical damage, and here we could also engrave the convert 50% assassin damage to all damage. But when you do that, you have to replace the missing 30% melee resistance and put it on the belt instead. When you use any other weapon than the second Spartan Javelin, then you always have to replace your 30% melee resistance on your belt. The Minotaur Mace can be found when you do the fake Minotaur questline in Pevka. At the end of the questline there's a quest what lies below the surface that will award you the Minotaur Mace. For our bow we will use the elusive bandit bow. That is probably the second best bow in the game, but definitely the best assassin bow in the game. It has assassin damage, 10% crit chance and 50% critical damage. There are only 4 bows in the game that have 50% critical damage on it. You can normally not find any bow with 50% critical damage, and the bandit bow is definitely the best of them. However, the only way to get the bandit bow is just by purchasing the Olympian gifts and pray for it to contain the bandit bow. It is not possible to simply buy it in the shop like the bighorn bow. You have to rely on your luck on the Olympian gift. So if you don't have it, you can simply replace it with another epic bow that has assassin damage, all damage and crit chance instead. But that way you will lose out on the 50% crit damage and you will likely not overrun the strongest S4 super resistant mercs. But that shouldn't be a problem at all. On our headgear we have assassin damage, critical damage and 20% crit chance while full health. Here we engrave the Become ISO Enhanced for 15 seconds when hit. The 120 second cooldown will actually be completely reset by using RS Madness. The gauntlets will have assassin damage, melee resistance and 100% crit damage while full health. Here we engrave the other very important engraving, the minus 15% cooldown duration for Battle Cry of Ares, which also works for Ares Madness, and it is still a 50% instead of 15%. So the engraving is a bit misleading, you will still need exactly 2 kills to completely reset Ares Madness. For our belt we use again the Belt of the Sphinx, because the Belt of the Sphinx is a unique item that has 20% crit chance while full health on it. We can completely ignore the Hunter damage here because we totally don't need it, but the 20% crit chance while full health is what is really needed in this build because we skipped the 10% on the gauntlets and here we get another 10% back without having to use any other special weapons. And when we also engrave here the 100% crit damage while full health, it is actually the best and most efficient way to do that. We have all our critical damage here, we have all our crit chance here by using the belt, and we can simply use 2 Spartan Javelins to get our melee resistance to 100%. The combination of 2 Spartan Javelins and the Belt of the Sphinx will give you the highest crit damage at 100% crit chance. However, if you don't have 2 Spartan Javelins, if you have only 1, then use the Minotaur Mace, that will replace the 100% crit damage from the belt, and then simply engrave the melee resistance on the belt. The torso is no real surprise here. We have assassin damage, 10% all damage, 50% critical damage and another 20% assassin damage. You can actually engrave another 20% assassin damage when you have upgraded it to the maximum 20%. And on the boots we have assassin damage, 20% crit chance, 100% critical damage, and here we have the space to engrave another 30% damage spares. That will give us a total of 120% damage spares, which is crazily good for an assassin build actually. Another good option besides 20% assassin damage of course would be to add 3 seconds for Ares Madness duration. That is also really good because it normally doesn't last that long, but actually it is just easier to just activate it again and not waste an engraving for another 3 seconds. That will give us a total stats of 294% warrior damage, 358% assassin damage and 299% hunter damage. We have 120% damage to spears and we also have 30% damage to swords. That's just because I didn't want to reset my mastery points. We have 100% crit chance and 675% critical damage. When you actually engrave another 50% crit damage on the Spartan Javelin and drop the damage conversion, then you will be at 725% critical damage. That is the maximum you will get when you use 50% crit damage on both Spartan Javelins. But actually I really recommend you to go for only 675% and rather use a little more warrior damage instead. Then of course we have 60% additional fire damage, 100% melee resistance and a couple of adrenaline stuff. These are the proposed abilities. 400 points are the amount I did not use for this build. So you only need around 175 points to make this build, including all the abilities and masteries. First of all, go for 6th Sense, because 6th Sense is not only good for your hunter damage, it also slows down time, which enables you to overrun mercenaries even at daytime. Then we have 2 points here on Arrow Master, so that you can either use fire or poison arrows. I always prefer fire arrows because you get a little more damage out of your fire ability. Multi-shot is great for Conquest battles and Devastating Shot definitely the best shot to use. I don't really like Predator Shot, and if you want to save a couple of points then you can definitely skip that and only use the Devastating Shot instead. Definitely mandatory however is Archery Master, because Archery Master also refills your first adrenaline segment, so that is definitely needed anyway. The Overpower Bowstrike can now be used and I would recommend you to put 3 points on it, because without the Bighorn Bow it is actually your strongest shot. And the Ghost Arrows are always nice to avoid enemies with shields. Then in the Warrior tree I recommend you to go for the Charged Heavy Attack, because Spears have one of the best charged heavy attacks with the 360 swing, dealing over 2 million damage to every enemy you hit. Then of course go for Weapons Master for the additional warrior damage and crit chance, go for Gear Master for the additional range resistance, and then it depends if you really want to use your fire or your elemental damage very often, then I would go for 3 points here on the flaming attacks, otherwise 1 point would be enough to unlock the 40% additional fire damage from Fire Mastery, because that can still be used when you shoot your arrows. The overpower attacks would be another point saver, because overpower attacks for spears are really bad, so I recommend you only use 1 point here on the overpower attacks and instead go for Ares Madness. 3 points on Ares Madness, definitely the best assassin ability in the entire game, makes you completely invincible, dealing insane damage for your melee attacks. It uses 35% of your assassin damage for every melee attack. And that is totally insane when you use it in Conquest battles or just everywhere where you fight. You deal 2 million to every target and they will just fall apart. If you have the other DLC as well, you can go for Furious the Bloodline. I always like to use it in an animation cancel on animals to refill my adrenaline. But the real deal is Ring of Chaos, because with Ring of Chaos and Ares Madness in combination you will be totally unstoppable. There's no other easier way to kill 2 people and immediately go into Ares Madness again than using Ring of Chaos. So that is the most deadly combination you can have here. Ring of Chaos plus Ares Madness all over the place. And if you still somehow get hit from a random arrow, you can use your second wind to refill your health. That is also of course a mandatory option in every build. Definitely go for Shadow Assassin here in the Assassin tree, that gives you 40% additional assassin damage and of course also 50% crit damage. Then of course go for 3 points on Rush Assassination, and for Hero Strike I would actually choose whether it is really useful or not. Some people really like Hero Strike, but actually Ares Madness is just so much better, and when you can always activate Ares Madness without any cooldown, then Ares Madness is definitely the superior option. So really think about it twice. When you want to use Hero Strike you can do it, but Ares Madness would probably be the way better option to use every time. Critical assassinations are not needed because you have enough assassin damage anyway, but don't forget Stealth Master. That is a real 1.1 10% multiplier that gives you 10% additional damage on top of everything you already deal, and that can give you the edge over the really bad resistant S4 mercenaries. For the 175 point basic variants, I propose you to use 15 points on damage with spares, then 12 points on crit chance and 12 points on crit damage. That way you will get 98% crit chance, so when you have more points in 175, then definitely max that out. That would be the first one to max out actually if you have more. Then in the warrior tab, go for 12 points here on warrior damage, and then another 10 points on melee resistance. 10 points is exactly enough to get to 100%, so any other more point here on melee resistance would be a wasted point. In the assassin tab, you should go for 12 points on assassin damage, then 15 points on crit chance at full health, 15 points on crit damage while full health, and another 12 points on damage while full health. Of course, if you have more than 175 points, then max out the crit chance while full health and also the crit damage while full health. If you have more than 400 points, then definitely max out damage spares, the crit chance, the crit damage. Also go for headshot damage and damage with bow charge shot, bow charging speed, and also the damage on distant targets. Go for a couple of points on adrenaline on headshot kill, go for the chance not to consume special arrows. Then in the warrior tab you should go for melee charging speed, because bears have a great charge attack. If you play a full health version and replace the Flags of Olympus engraving on your bow, then you can also go for health and armor, but if you play with your reduced health, then that is not needed. 10 points on melee resistance is still enough to get 100%. Go for fire damage, armor penetration, damage restored as health, and a bit for your warrior abilities if you want to. In the assassin tab, go for damage when time is slowed down, go for assassin damage, and if you want to play with a sword or with another weapon, then go for damage with swords, otherwise that's definitely not needed. Max out the crit chance, crit damage, the damage while full health, go for a couple of adrenaline stuff here. Go for health restored per adrenaline spent, damage on elites and bosses, cooldown, and a bit more damage for your assassin abilities. I hope you really like this build. That is probably the best assassin build possible to date with all the cool stuff in it. And I have now attached you the complete Conquest battle with the 111 kills record. And of course that's a real record, not using the mercenary trick. And don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and see you next time.